Please. Okay, it's 11 a.m. on August 16th, 2022, and this is a regular meeting of the Lake County Board of Commissioners. If everyone will make sure that their phones are on silent, and please join me in the pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation. I don't think there's anything or addition. All right, so I will understand an approval of the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Any further discussion? And all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Community informational items, Commissioner Cleaver.
Nothing.
Commissioner Much.
The Coast Swap crews from DNR and the Wildfire Mitigation are a little delayed, but they are in the county down on County Road 4, completing the demonstration project site that is interpreted the dates on the county parcel. They will be next, and just looking forward to getting that full crew working. They're a bit of a reduced number, unfortunately, at the moment, but Andy from Arwick said that 20 of them were out earlier this week and last week. They were moving fast and making good progress. So really excited about being able to get that resource in the community and forward to that work.
All right, thank you. Okay, I don't have any commissioner clarifications. All right. Okay. Public comments on items not listed on the agenda. If you're joining us online, please put into the chat if you would like to make a public comment on something that's not currently listed on our agenda. If there's anyone in the room that has any public comment that they'd like to make, please raise your hand. We'll call on you in order. Mayor Lobby, you can come up and start.
I would just like to compliment the county commissioners and county managers. The meeting last night felt safe, I guess, in the sense that people felt free to comment as they wished on all different sides of that issue. So I just thought it was an excellent town hall. Thank you.
Anybody else on the Zoom or in the room have any public comment? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move into new business. First on our list is Resolution 22-20, creation of a regional housing authority through an OTA with the city of Leadville. And this is presented to us by County Manager Tim Bergman. Tim, I don't know if you want to come up. You're the first one.
Okay. So resolution 22-20 is the formal, creation of the Leadville Lake County Regional Housing Authority, which is through an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Leadville that the Board of County Commissioners approved on your regular meeting on August 2nd. City Council of Leadville has approved the IGA and recorded it. I don't know if it's recorded, but it is official from the city. So this is just the official resolution for the Board of County Commissioners to create the Regional Housing Authority. I can read it.
Yeah, I can read it. Okay. This is Resolution 22-20, a resolution to form the Leadville Lake County Regional Housing Authority through an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Leadville. Whereas the provisions of Section 18 of Article XIV of the Colorado Constitution and Section 29.1.203 of the Colorado Revised Statutes allow Colorado governments to cooperate or contract with one another to provide any function, service, or facility lawfully authorized to each local government. And whereas CRS 29-1-204.5 allowed Colorado local governments to contract with each other to establish separate governmental entities to be known as multi-jurisdictional housing authority. And whereas Lake County and the city of Leadville have experienced a rapidly growing demand for the need of attainable, affordable community and workforce housing. And whereas the Lake County and Leadville communities have expressed a desire for local governments to help address the insufficient, attainable, affordable housing in the city and the county. The Board of County Commissioners of Lake County recognizes the benefits and advantages of working with the city of Leadville to establish and create a multi-jurisdictional housing authority to provide and workforce housing projects and programs for local residents, families, and employees. And whereas the city of Leadville and Lake County received from the Department of Local Affairs, DOLA, an Affordable Housing Development Incentives Grant to jointly plan the creation of qualified strategies for the creation of affordable housing. And whereas the creation of a multi-jurisdictional housing authority achieves several of DOLA's qualifying strategies, including allowing for the use of publicly owned property for affordable housing, future land banking, and other incentives that encourage the development of affordable housing through the development of infrastructure and assisting with development fees. And whereas the Lake County Board of County Commissioners therefore finds that it is in the best interest of the public health, safety, and welfare to enter into an intergovernmental agreement in sustainably and substantially formally attached to this resolution as Exhibit 1, the Leadville Lake County Regional Housing Authority. Moved, read, and adopted by the Board of County Commissioners of the County in the state of Colorado at its regular meeting held the 16th day of August 2022. Okay. Any questions on the resolution? No? Okay.
I'll move to approve resolution 22-20, a resolution to form the Leadville Lake County Regional Housing Authority through the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Leadville.
That's second.
That's okay. Okay. Just quick discussion on this. Just thank you to the city for working with us on creating a regional housing authority. We appreciate the collaboration and look forward to moving forward the next step of the DOLA grant. So thank you for that. All right, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving on, resolution 22-21, amending the annual resolution of 2201 to appoint the Board of County Commissioner representatives to the Leadville Lake County Regional Housing Authority.
Congratulations on the passage of resolution 22-20. Further on agenda item 2, there's a slight typo. It should be amending resolution 22-05 on the agenda.
Oh,
That's what's correct on the resolution.
It's correct on the resolution. On the agenda.
Okay.
Apologies. Or resolutions or appointments of resolutions.
Did we not have a later one even when we had the DOR, I think?
Which was amending resolution 22-02, which was 22-17, but 22-05 is the one that is all of your board appointments.
Okay.
to add this a new board to the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Cindy and I figured it out this morning.
Great. Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So resolution 22-21 is part of, well, continues on resolution 22-20 because exhibit 1 of 22-20 is the intergovernmental agreement between the Board of County Commissioners and the City Council of Leadville to create the Regional Housing Authority. In that exhibit, the Board of County Commissioners can appoint 2 representatives from the county to the new board of the Regional Housing Authority. And in that, and then in discussions with the board, you have landed on 2 people to be nominated to that new board. And in that would be Commissioner Mudge for a term ending at the end of her term, and then myself, County Manager Tim Bergman, for a term ending January 31st, 2024. And then from there, the City Council this evening will choose their two board members. From there, those four people, including Commissioner Mudge and myself, will choose the at-large members. There are 3 at-large seats available for this, where applications are actively being received by our housing director, Jackie Dillahan. And then once the 4 board members from the county and the city are sat, then we will vote on appointing the 3 at-large board members.
I think it makes the most sense. Are you good with? All right. Thanks, Brett.
Good luck.
I am. And I think, you know, as we develop this and to have the conversations that want additional representatives and kind of to build up people, you know, we have talked about really trying to be thoughtful and create an easy way for others to join us.
Yep.
So that we can kind of build up and have like good succession planning and representation on the board.
Yeah, I guess speaking of that, I mean, not relevant to the vote right now, but do we have a sense of when the first meeting of the housing authority will be and when that? And I guess also just yeah, exactly. Well, and also like, will we have like a work session or discussion of that at large positions? Just so we can...
Yes, I think so, because I think there is a desire, and there is a desire, and there should be a concentrated effort to have people at-large members on the board who have lived experience with the housing challenges in Lake County, and who are also from minority populations in the county that previously been excluded from other boards of this purview. So I think that having a work session, whether jointly with City Council or among the Board of County Commissioners, is a great idea to review the applicants. I don't know if they know that they would be discussed in public meeting. I would assume hopefully they have made that assumption. And what was your second question?
Yeah.
When is the first board meeting?
I thought we would decide who's going to be on it, and then we can have a conversation about that.
Yeah, because we have a there are a couple of things also to consider. So not only seating the at-large board members, but adopting a budget. The new board will be tasked with adopting the budget for the Regional Housing Authority for 2023 and November 22, and then also adopting the bylaws for the board, so we have a high functioning board. So those will be the first 3 big things: is the at-large board members, the budget, and then the adoption of the bylaws for the new Regional Housing Authority. But I agree with Jackie that it makes sense to have the 4 people identified from the city and the county, and then finding a time when we can meet.
Yeah, and I don't have like a screening rush that it, I mean, yeah, let's be prepped for it. I'm just curious, so we have time to prep ourselves.
Yeah, and Jackie, you've done a great job relaying that the letters of interest that have come in, and I'm assuming, although I did not really look at the whole email group you were sending it to, but I'm assuming you were sharing those with the city as well. So council should also have a great idea of who's submitted letters already.
And hopefully, hopefully after this creation of it, there might be a bigger push publicly to have more applications and more public interest.
All right, so I will move this into the record. This is resolution 22-21, a resolution amending resolution 2205. Okay. County board and position appointments to appoint the county board of county commissioners representatives to the Lake County Regional Housing Authority Board of Directors. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Lake, State of Colorado is vested with administering the affairs of Lake County, Colorado pursuant to state statutes. And whereas the Board of County Commissioners entered into an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Leadville for the creation of the Lake County Regional Housing Authority on August 16th, 2022, through resolution 22-20. Whereas the Leadville Lake County Regional Housing Authority Intergovernmental Agreement, Article 3, Section 1 states that each of the parties shall appoint 2 members to the board of directors, at least one of whom shall be an elected official of the appointing party. Resolution 2221 seeks to amend Resolution 22-05 to include the Regional Housing Authority Board of Directors and to appoint Sarah Mudge, Lake County Commissioner, for a term ending at the expiration of her term in office, and Tim Bergman, Lake County Manager, for a term ending January 31st, 2024. And whereas this resolution shall become effective upon the signing by the board and the subsequent recording of such. Moved, read, and adopted by the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Lake, State of Colorado at its regular meeting held the 16th day of August, 2022. Any questions on that resolution? Comments?
No, just to be crystal clear, we're adding, we'll add this to our annual appointments and the annual resolution that we do every year, at the beginning of the year, as close to it as we can. To kind of reappoint and reaffirm terms and names and dates. We've been working to really include those things in that annual resolution so they don't slip through the cracks. And this is a great addition.
Will we put on our annual resolution the full board with their terms? Or how will that be tracked? Just in general with the housing director?
I think, well, the housing director will be responsible for tracking per board. For your annual resolution, we will be responsible for the counties to appointees.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, no further questions. So I will entertain a motion for the approval of this.
So I move the resolution 2022-21, which amends the annual resolution 2022-05.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 3, the approval of the selection of the bond counsel and underwriter. Presented by Commissioner Hewitt.
I'll take a first crack at this, and
Chris is
yeah.
here.
Chris Lloyd, the county attorney, and Katie Welter did all the actual work on this and the due diligence. So just for quick background, so in previous discussions, the BOCC has taken the approach of funding the Justice Center with the aim of financing through a certificate of participation, $35 million of the total aimed $45 million cost of the project. So there are 2 firms that we need to bring on board to help us through the COP or certificate of participation process. They're the bond counsel and the underwriter. They work closely together. Bond counsel is in essence like our advisor. They help us. If you think of the COP as like a mortgage application or construction loan application, they help us prepare that application. And then the underwriter is the person who actually sort of takes that out to be able to work with the financing of it and putting it out essentially into the bond market. Chris Lloyd and Katie Welter interviews of the 2 bond counsel firms that specialize in small jurisdictions doing construction bonds or COPs. And then there really was one clear firm for the underwriter position or underwriter role. So I think at this point, having interviewed the underwriter has sort of a standard service agreement. So I think but there it is to approve pending final legal review. And then for the bond council, we have a recommendation for one of the firms. So I think the vote on the bond council is to accept the recommendation from Chris Lloyd and Katie Welter and authorize Chris Lloyd and Tim Bergman to begin negotiating those service agreements with them.
And we have a sample of their engagement terms and such for both the firms that applied, and since we talked to firms. So it should be pretty quick work.
Yeah. And I can just say, sorry, just for the public record, so Butler Snow and I can
Kodak Rock.
Thank you. I want to say Kodak. Were the firms for bond council. They both were highly competent. It was a very close selection, similar pricing, and there is a recommendation from the Lloyd and Katie to go with Kodak.
Kodak. K-U-T-A-K. Kodak Rock. And just to dovetail on what Commissioner Bingley just reported, both of these firms, Butler Snow and Kodak Rock, are national law firms. They're very large firms with substantial experience throughout the country with these types of issues. But I think one of the things that definitely helped Kodak Rock rise to the level that we recommend them is their experience in Colorado. Since 1977, they have been counsel on over 4,000 public financing projects to the tune of more than $85 billion in financing for public projects. Even during the pandemic, they handled in 2020 74 different projects like that to the tune of $2.5 billion. So it's one of those things, and their team is led by someone with over 35 years experience in public financing. So, but even with that being said, I told Commissioner Beaver that the county couldn't go wrong with either firm. There's no war in that rock. But the other thing too is in terms of its experience in surrounding counties as well, they were long-term counsel with Chaffee County on the projects that they've had for certificates station, highly recommended by their now retired county attorney Jim Davis. They've also worked closely with Alan Mott, who is recommended for the rating portion of this, and so essentially are their go-to firm when his firm has questions about governance. And so we think they'd be a good fit.
Yeah, I see that both of them experience in communities like Lake County, which was a question of mine to make sure that they had experience with Taylor to know how that plays into it. Okay. I don't have any questions. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, well, again, thank you really to Chris Lloyd and Katie Welter for doing both those two selections.
I don't have any questions. The underwriting agreement for engagement.
And that's probably when it was first sent for review. And so with both of these, we'll have them updated and made current. So yeah, my suggestion would be on both these engagements to have them recommended as approved pending final review, so that we can get those engagement agreements put in place.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve the underwriting service agreement pending final review with Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
No, thank you.
Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation from Chris Lloyd and Katie Welter, and authorizing Tim Bergman and Chris Lloyd to start negotiations with Kodak Rock for bond counsel representation of the county for the justice center.
Second.
Any okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Thank you. And I'll pass on your comments to you for the participation.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thanks so much. Okay.
Just while we're on Justice Center, sorry, I realized I forgot to add the Justice Center update from DPM. I'll circulate that. Apologies for not getting that on our BOCC.
Tim, will we schedule a meeting for our study first? Well, I do have we'd like to talk about, I mean, we can talk about it, but we'd like to talk about transit. We can probably put that update on that one.
For this. Oh, okay. If you would like to, we can.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about that at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Number 4, approval of conservation trust fund application presented by Karen Lewis and Felicia Federico from the rec department, and Jody Enderlin from the rec advisory committee. I don't know if Jody's on. Not here.
Jody's not on. No, she's
Okay.
not gonna be here. So
Okay.
just B and I.
Okay, you guys can come up if you'd like to.
Okay. I don't know. Do you guys have the form?
I have it pulled up. I think it's the latest one.
I can send it
You want me to
to
share it?
if you want to. So pretty much the Recreation Advisory Board created this form just so when they're awarding funds, everybody's kind of on the same page and has to do the same process. I think in the past, they really haven't had a proper process on awarding funds. So some groups have had to do certain things and others have just been like, you know, kind of awarded. So they just want to make sure that they're following a good process and that's why we created this form. So
we were talking a lot about this when Amber was still here, and we were trying to align or incorporate a lot of what our nonprofit requests to the county like questions were. And I apologize, but I didn't get to go through all of these to make sure that those are incorporated. But I do think that there's maybe some tweaking of language or stronger questions that we could add to the CT, like the document.
yeah,
That is here. I'm not going to share that. I did not have Zoom pulled up. Sorry. So here is the request. And like you said, Karen, I remember the conversation. There wasn't a lot of focus on, or the goal was to raise up and ask questions on sustainability of the organization, the ability and capacity of the organization to maintain or offer repair and maintenance for whatever the project might have been. If it was a capital project, it could be programming, and that could be the same, or it could be a one-time program. So to just highlight that, for continued funding for this project, and it's pilot startup contribution or whatnot. And then along with this, the CTF application, I believe the Rec Advisory Board also kind of continues to prioritize kind of with the rec department percentages of the CTF funding that we do get. So it's not necessarily all that we get is awarded out. There's some priorities that the Rec Advisory Board has set in the rec department and county's operations and maintenance, which is completely appropriate allocation of those funds towards, and something that you all have been trying to kind of better allocate through the department. And I'm sure, you know, we round up to complete the code master planning and maintenance and repair are a big part of that. That conversation will continue with you all,
yeah,
and what you would recommend rec advisory board as well as the commissioners. So, did you go through, or do you have a sense to my comment on the general overall, like the nonprofit request that the county has? Do you compare those two?
So I didn't have anything to really do with this form.
Okay.
The board created it on their own. And then I know you had shared that, what the county uses.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't personally know. I think this was created, it's been a while, maybe even April-ish, maybe March. I don't know. Like you said, a lot of this was kind of happening when Amber was still here. I think they created it. It kind of got put on the back burner. And now that it's time for those requests to come in, the board's wanting to see the form available to the public.
Is there a priority for the record with CTF funds or not a prioritization of the funds, and that's why they're soliciting requests, or is it just if somebody happens to have a request?
That's a good question. I honestly am not sure about that either. Some of those questions are definitely would be nice if somebody was here to answer those. Especially just because Felicia and myself are kind of new to attending rec board. So
I thought they added questions on sustainability and
Well, the CTF funds have such a narrow scope of what you can use them for. I was just wondering if there was a prioritization with the rec advisory board set out for those funds, or if they don't actually have a plan to utilize those funds or the fund balance, and that's why they're soliciting requests. Or
I think we may have a copy of what Amber kind of put together after you all said that you wanted it a little more in depth, but I'm not sure if that was her form or a spin-off of that, but this is what they wanted it to present. So
I think in general, I don't have a problem with this form. Maybe we just need to like revisit collectively and make sure that the next advisory board meeting has on the agenda talking about reflecting on the pros and facility conditions and really working with you guys and what CTF funds are in the bank and are slated to come in and where you would like to see those, and then maybe we can just get a better idea of once we post this, if we put my goodness to post it with kind of general idea of the amount that we are prepared to award at the full pot. And maybe a couple of priorities that we'd like to see people propose. I mean, I would say I don't know that we need to like formally approve this. Let's just make sure get some of these other like thought through.
in terms of that, I mean, do you think like should the three of us attend the next rec board meeting to sort of like communicate those? Do we, I know you think we can like that to check in with the rec board or the like we tell staff what we're thinking or I mean, I'm just not, and you have more experience with the rec board, so I'm curious if you have thoughts on like how to.
I'd love to hear from the staff on like where that could be best, you know, where we need to finish projects, where we need to revisit some movements, like highlight some facilities that would be really helpful to put CTF funds, maybe work with Tim too, and then maybe we can have like or you guys can just send that list to us. What was that work session?
Yeah.
When is the next advisory board meeting?
So we just had one on Thursday, so the next one will be September 8th.
Okay.
Yeah.
we actually will have a work session on September 1st.
Oh,
Because they wanted to prioritize their own. Like,
great.
put those in, but we won't be able to attend that, so they already know that.
Okay. could you put a list together before then to share with them and us, and then at the very least we could maybe one of us or some of us could join that work session with them or follow that schedule for September 1st and then September 8th.
So Stefanton first, you look it over. Want to make sure we can make it September 1st work session.
Yeah. I just think that we just need to be careful. You can't accept public speech. It's gotta be for conservation and websites. The county can operate, so it would be just put this out to groups that we know those funds may not be eligible to go through. And create like a false sense of.
Is that the eligibility or criteria? Oh yeah, that would be great to post that.
Yeah. Like I think one year we tried to pay for like a mapping guide and that wasn't an initial. So like so the county doesn't have to cover those expenses. Just really making sure that it seems like an appropriate thing for you to put an application out for it.
Well, we don't want groups applying and spending time like putting in that whole process, and then we just take one look at it, or they take one look at it and say, like, you're not eligible, So yeah, I think being very clear on who's eligible, definitely.
We do know when is that September 1st, is that 6 p.m. at the regular time?
Yeah.
I think that was a planned 2-hour work session.
Okay.
If you want me to hold off on, so I think they were hoping once it was approved from the board, they could put it out there. So do you want me to hold off on that or whatever? I guess what is the final thought on that, just so I know?
My initial thought is that I don't want to put out an application to a whole bunch of nonprofit groups if money can't go out to a nonprofit group. And without knowing what the rec board's priorities are for recreation and maintenance or conservation.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to have the rec department's priorities align with our priorities, responsive to our current conditions and project code assessment. And then the rec advisory board priorities, those three, let's combine out, and that we might decide if any to allocate outside, and then like the criteria. I think it should be very clear. All following eligible expenses. So
yeah,
I think that can be simply put.
Yeah, and I think once Tim, Felicia, and myself meet, we can kind of figure out what the best approach is to wording wise too to put it on the website.
Sure. Okay.
And just for every, I mean, I think this general allocation that the county gets from the state is about $47,000, $48,000, $50,000 annually. It's not a huge pot of money, and the trend from like 4 or 5 years ago with the rec advisory board is to look at that and funnel and allow the rec department to really use that for maintenance. And it's not necessarily meant to be a granting fund. It's meant to maintain county facilities, and so it moved. Less awards have been granted over the last few years for new programming with facilities, and more has been focused on. Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys.
File 22-25, since the past 3 years. Yes, and here's the conclusions from the by Ann Sheehan. I just want to remind everyone that the public hearing portion of this has been closed. Comment today on the application. And we'll just open it. So, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. I do have a motion from the planning commission. And then just a little bit of comment. So the motion from the planning commission, there was a motion made and then an amended motion. So I'm going to go ahead and do the amended motion recommendation and then explain it. The amended motion being made by Abby Bellman, by Joey Edwards, by roll call vote with 5 members in favor. The planning commission recommended approval of file number 22-25 Tennessee Pass Sleeping Yurts as the caretaker CUP to Board of County Commissioners with the following conditions. 1, the 6 guest yurt shall have a maximum occupancy of 6, and the caretaker unit shall have a maximum occupancy of 2. Number 2, all trash shall be removed on a daily basis. The guest yurts, number 3, the guest yurt sanitary waste vault shall be pumped on a yearly basis unless further directed by the Lake County Public Health or Lake County Board of Health. Number 4, the applicant shall furnish an approved method of sanitary waste management for the caretaker unit and any further direction of gray water management from Lake County Public Health or Lake County Board of Health if it's private building on that application. Number 5, the applicant shall demonstrate compliance with background for site plan review similar requirements, section 5.2, 5.I, and 28 M during the building permit application process. Number 6, Tennessee Pass Units, guest and caretaker shall abide by use standards 5.2.6. 7, per the Lake County Local Fire Rescue, the caretaker unit shall have a smoke detector and not a fire extinguisher. And number 8, all statements and representations made by the applicant through the application and hearing shall be binding and considered as conditions of approval. And further finding the approval criteria pursuant to Lake County Land Development Code section 3.6.1F have been met as evidenced in the staff report dated August 8, 2002, for file number 22-25 and provided as for reporting. So you may remember, so during the deliberation, it was a slight change to the suggested motions within the staff report, and that was number 3. The signs shall be installed indicating no cooking in yurts with the exception of boiling water. With the inclusion of a caretaker unit, the planning commission felt that that was overly restrictive and would not allow a caretaker the flexibility to be able to sustain their operations being supported to the role. And that the limited cooking that's available in the guest yurts is sufficient. They didn't think that they needed to have additional guidance. Typically, guests within the guest yurts use a cookhouse. Patrons of the cookhouse. And so they just felt like number 3 was a little over restricted and didn't really talk about it in the right focus. So that was the only difference after the board retired from the meeting on August 8th. And that was the only change within the suggested motion that was actually the staff of the in that space slide. So other than that, I think that's I think I need changing that so that then there could be more cooking happening creates like a black water issue. And
all things that would have to be addressed with public health as part of their plan. So this just creates the space for the conversation, but a building permit that'll all have to be vetted with public health and most likely with the Board of Health in this instance. So if there's anything additional, I don't think the intent for the guest yurts is to create anything additional. So add any kind of had any kind of waste management associated with it. The conditional use itself pairs with that and aligns with Board of Health.
So the language in,
The language would remain the same because they still have to approve the waste management, whether you're along with discussion on water. So we have to, if we have waste management, which would create your concerns about any kind of cooking waste, and then the gray water. So it's covered in both.
Because the building permit's not issued until the Board of Health or the.
Right, you can't issue building permit until you have a sign off from public and environmental health. So that will have to be done before. So the process is already built in to address those items, and then the CDP just have to.
And there were also a couple other, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the original file. There were some things that you had stricken from the original CUP of the 6 years, and I don't think specifically I'm concerned about any of them. I just wonder if is it actually better to remove them altogether from the conditional use permit, even though, because I think they were stricken because they've met all of those conditions and requirements, but should we not just leave them in there so that it's
Either that they were removed or they're redundant. You know, if it's design committees and the US standards, they would abide by section 6.14 that just automatically is given. That the applicant developer shall schedule a site visit with the Liberty County Fire Rescue to discuss and develop fire mitigation. So that will have to be done again when they meet the standards
for the backcountry.
So that's redundant. The building permit or site plan review has not been reviewed by the Lake County Building Department within 2 years. That it happened.
Yeah.
So do apply. An annual review for progression report shall be scheduled within 1 year of conditional use. And we're beyond that time frame from the original conditional use complete of the caretaker units. So unless there would be a desire to add
the caretaker unit or the sleeper?
The sleeper.
Yeah.
It's for the sleeper. So that's already been completed. So again, there shall be a written agreement with the landowner showing approval of all permits and conditions of this application. We actually have a letter with this new application. They approved everything. So we actually have it and it's complete. Engineering design of your structure shall be signed off by the building department. And this was done and documented in the building file, but with the sleepers. Okay, so that's all already done. So we move forward and then cooking, and the planning commission thought that removing that for the reasons that we talked about. And then we installed one vault toilet for every 2 years and have them pumped on a yearly basis. So it came forward, but the vault's already in place. So all it is that the vaults have to be pumped on a yearly basis. And we did find out from the applicant that's done anymore. And they're very mindful of it because of the accessibility for the company truck to be in there, and also that they have never actually very close to capacity. The ones that we took out and kind of what loaded over into the new requirements.
So do we have? You said change in condition 3.
Yeah, it was just number.
Yeah,
Here's what's in
So this information.
Motion from the staff report for discussion purposes.
So just remove number 3 from the original.
Correct.
So there should only 8 conditions.
Should that not be, so So the whole, so it's not, so cooking will be allowed or considered through all of them, not just the.
So nothing cooking will be allowed because typically the application says that they're limited to within the yurts themselves, not the caretaker unit, but guest yurts. They do have a hot plate. It's not promoting them cooking or doing anything like that. I think like on the website marketing, they make hot chocolate, coffee, things like that. So it's not, there's not like this new development that they're going to say now that, those cooking, there's nothing operational, it's changed whatsoever. It's not a desire by the applicant to increase the degree of use. It's just a signage requirement. So the application stays the same, the use stays the same, work use stays the same, they're not asking to expand use. It was just taking down the signage and they just thought that it wasn't needed because the facilities with them, the guest yurts don't promote cooking, their marketing doesn't, their, what they put out there, what's allowed, they just thought that it was for the guest yurts and they would be over restricted for them.
Right, we read into the record all of the conditions on these.
Yeah, I think we just get a motion to approve as for the city motion for the new conditions or make a motion to just a motion.
I have no problem with the operations. I think my problem is just sticking on like the new backcountry zoning and I'm not, I don't have a problem approving it. I just yeah, I guess I just for general like comment on considering that I have all the faith that will address all the sanitary issues and water issues through the Board of Health and environmental health. And I can definitely appreciate like not putting too much of those specific. I just want to, say out loud for the record that that will then be a separate application with the Board of Health, because I think that one being consistent and also, it's going to be a case by case basis. It's going to be very nuanced on all the requests that come to us on backcountry structures. And so.
Right. Absolutely. So it just, absolutely. Just like the land development doesn't have the jurisdiction to grant or direct or anything other than to the agency that has jurisdiction. So the condition to address it with the Board of Health is the right place for the conditional use permit to focus on it, and the applicant will have that for the Board of Health.
If a variance or anything.
Yeah, it will be, so it will go to the board.
Okay.
Okay. I'll move to approve file number 22-25, Tennessee Pass Sleeping Yurts Guest and Caretaker Conditional Use Permit. For the 8 conditions read into the record by staff.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Nothing.
Seeing that, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much, Amy. Thank you. So it's a matter of interesting double-sided
for recording purposes. Okay, gotcha. Okay, here's the packet. Okay, before everything's going to be fixed. Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. File 22-30.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day, guys. File 22-30 reads on a parcel 10, tracks 12 to 100 Hill, Twin Lakes, from industrial mining to recreational.
I have a statement of motion on this file as well as a resolution for the board. So the statement of motion is at its August 8th, 2022. Joint public hearing, the Lake County Planning Commission made seconded and approved by a roll call vote of 5 members in favor and 0 members in opposition. The following motion, the motion having been moved by Joe Edwards and seconded by Ruth. They move that the Planning Commission recommend approval of file number 21-30 to the Board of County Commissioners. The rezoning of parcel 10 tract R12 estates from IN to our recreational, making the following findings. The proposed rezoning is consistent with the Lake County Comprehensive Plan. And based on that motion, I have a resolution for the board. This is a resolution to rezone the property known as parcel 10, tract 12R, Hill, and Lake, Colorado, from IM industrial mines RC recreational. And whereas the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Lake, State of Colorado, is vested with administering the affairs of Lake County, Colorado, pursuant to state statutes, and whereas pursuant to CRS 29-2102I, the legislation has determined that in order to provide for planned and orderly development within Colorado, the broad authority must be provided to local governments, including counties, to plan for and regulate the use of land within the respective jurisdictions. And whereas pursuant to CRS 30-28-111L, the legislation has determined that local county governments may make a zoning plan for zoning all or any part of the unincorporated territory within such county. And whereas the county is in receipt of a land use and development application file number 22-30, parcel 10, tract 12R, Hill, Twin Lakes rezone to rezone the parcel from IM to RC. And whereas said parcels have met all the substantial requirements pursuant to Lake County Land Development Code section 3.13 rezoning, and whereas the proposed rezone has been determined to be compliant with the Lake County Comprehensive Plan, and whereas the location of the parcels is in compatibility with the intent of the RC recreational zoning and harmonious to the surrounding area, and whereas the Lake County Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners held a joint public hearing on this matter on the 8th day of August 22, and whereas the Board of County Commissioners has considered the recommendations of the Lake County Building and Land Use Department and Planning Commission, and now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners, County of Lake and State of Colorado, that pursuant to section 3.13.3 of the Lake County Land Development Code, section 1, the proposed rezoning is found to be consistent and in compliance with all parts of the Lake County Comprehensive Plan. And section 2, the resolution shall become effective upon the signing by the board of this resolution and subsequent reading of it. And so I'll hold off on the move read and adopted until you do that. So that's the proposed resolution from staff for the recommendation for rezone from
I just one small comment. Noticed a small typo in the statement of motion. 5 members in favor, and then it says 1 and this is 0.
Oh,
They all
were all in favor.
0.
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions for you on the rezone request. Just to kind of rehash the public hearing and discussion about the potential adjacent future land uses with the gravel pit area there. We had a discussion and looked throughout the county where similar kind of circumstances exist in numerous places actually, and not feeling that this one parcel would kind of significantly affect any future potential application that we might see on that commercial use with the gravel pit. This area is kind of the donut hole in that Eating Hill area, and it's surrounded by more residential. The applicant have done due diligence to add, acquire slightly small parcel of land or sliver to then meet code. So I think that's, you know, I appreciated that instead of perhaps asking that we have a code amendment and make an exception. That I thought that was a relief, given a lot of the requests that we have seen in the last couple of years. Yeah, just to rehash, you know, that conversation we heard on the recording online and questions.
And we just supply them really the only thing that you couldn't come in and ask to
yeah.
So, you know, it was really
Yeah.
So yeah, for the plan, they did a great job and we're doing.
I just wanted to add, I mean, with all respect to the planning commission and the discussion we had with the planning commission, I do remain concerned that we're entertaining these ad hoc rezonings and nibbling away at this island or donut hole of IM without really taking a comprehensive look at whether we do or don't want to remove that donut hole of IM. I just don't feel like that's a great way to conduct land use planning, to do it by you know, small decision at a time. I do think we're inviting future conflict with the other owners in that IM district who planning commission hearings that said they want to pursue gravel pit operation. But we're inviting conflict if we're with that. We don't know if they will, but the smaller area we allow them to operate in, that's going to make it a harder hearing. And I have to say, I feel like a lot of this is being brought by what appears to be a lack of proper due diligence on either the seller or the buyer or their agents in understanding what the zoning is of property there. So my it's
I would prefer to have nothing to -30. A rezoning of parcel 10 tract R12 Eating Hill Estates from IM industrial mining to RC recreation. Yes, I'll just do that. Sorry, I'm reading the plan.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? No? Thank you for the thoughtful discussion. I appreciate it. All right. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Aye.
No.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ian. I appreciate it. What's this? Oh, you see here.
Oh, yeah. And I will change the number to bring us back up.
Okay. Wait. Oh, the resolution. Oh, okay, I got it then. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Discussion on an easement request through a BOCC owned land parcel at the top of County Road 6C. Okay.
So actually, all I am looking at is it's not an action item other than giving staff some direction and giving the property owner some direction as next steps. So we can screen share, or you can whatever works for you. I just want you to look at the parcel real quick. This property owner needs, you want to do it on,
Yeah, I can.
okay. Oh, right. Okay. That would be great. So parcel number is R00476. These property owners acquired this parcel from the Hartzels. Not that that's really relevant, but they're clearly new owners of this parcel, and they want to acquire access off County Road 6C. 6C doesn't go to their parcel, where they do have an easement from another adjacent property owner, but where they deviate off of County Road 6C, that land is owned by the Board of County Commissioners. And they did meet with Public Works, and they're supportive of them being able to come off of County Road 6C. And then they have this easement from another adjacent property owner to their parcel. But what I would suggest is that an easement needs to also be granted, and like you're here too, Chris, from the board to transverse over the portion of the Board of County Commissioners parcel that is not part of the right of way. So an easement needs to be established, and I'm not even sure if the GIS is 100% accurate in this area. Yeah, can you put it in? Oh,
I know that successfully, but I sure can try again.
Let's see if I can. So can you throw on the zoning? That's always the easiest way. So it's this part actually. It's this parcel right here. Here's County Road 6C. It comes down. Yeah, the Wester's parcel right here. Okay. And County Road 6C comes down here. A little bit of a turnaround. There we go. And so they want to, and then this is the parcel that they would be coming across a portion of to their property. And then they have an easement from the other adjacent property owner already established on record.
An easement from this ring?
Yes. So they want to come from here across the parcel, across here to continue next. And so
yeah. So whenever you guys can get that, that's awesome. And part of the reason I'm right.
And what I wanted to confirm with the board and with Chris is that my next action step, what I would anticipate was that they would bring a proposal before the board, and they should have with that proposal, potentially, I didn't know if we should direct them with anything other than the proposal to include survey, maintenance, and typically what I believe that what we want to see is that they draft the easement, they do the survey work, and then Chris would review it for the board. But before I go and speak to them and they engage with someone and spend that kind of sure that we're on the same page on best next steps before I communicate that out to one of your constituents.
And I would just dovetail on. I think it's important to get more information from them and have more communications on that before they actually spend all that money, because I also don't want to send the inference that asking them to do that means it will be approved. And we end up in some sort of a client's situation where they say, well, we were under the impression we did this, we did it. And so, but it sounds like to me we don't necessarily have all the information needed in order to recommend to the commissioners what to decide at this point.
Correct. So I think I just want to know what layer. I think at this point they could put the proposal together, bring it before the board, and then from there determine the board's next, and maybe that's where it is before we even they incur additional costs. The likelihood. I think we need some internal research.
Yes.
About whether or not this is a viable location and those kind of things. But they are anxious to work on the building permit, and I have said until we gain access across the county parcel, that can't, even though they have the other easement, it doesn't connect to anything.
so need that connectivity. I can direct them to
yeah, and my suggestion would be also to ask them to provide any information they already have related to the property and stuff. So that way we can determine, you know, what needs to be supplemented and before they go out, especially lead time on surveys and stuff. You know, it's pretty dangerous. So I would hate, you know, to delay too much on it, but also hate for them to expend that if we don't have enough information you can suggest whether it's viable.
Could that be a public hearing, I assume?
It could start as like a work session or something like that to discuss it first in general, but it'll be an internal review with Ann and I based on the information we've received. And then we can go back to them and say, there's still some gaps or, okay, we're comfortable doing this.
The only reason I ask is that that's probably, I think it is, and Bob Hartzell and I went up and looked at it one time. And it's a well-established trail that goes right by there. In fact, Kai and Roxanne came riding down that trail while we were looking at the property. So.
Right. And your concern would be
use that trail and stay intact
for public use.
Sure.
And stuff. Yeah. And that's the kind of information you kind of need.
Where?
It runs right along that property, Hartzell's property.
Doesn't it go?
I think it runs, well, I get disoriented when I'm up in those woods, so I'm not sure.
But those are not public trails.
And this is just, if I'm understanding that, this is just for an access easement type of thing. It's not for them to do any type of improvements or anything like that. So we could definitely condition it on continuing to allow.
They want to build. They want to build on the parcel.
But not on the county's property. They want an easement for access to the parcel. Yeah. So you could definitely condition it in terms of not restricting other access, that you're just granting them access.
It would be an individual park. It would be a private park.
Yeah, and not exclusive. You know, you can condition it. So, but I think we need more information.
So this is their parcel. Just throwing the zoning up there, which is allows
urban residential.
My question, and maybe you said this while I was trying to share my screen, you referenced the close proximity to 6C, but 6A, is there no, like I would think that this would be a much better kind of access for us to consider, and it looks more like a driveway rather than coming all the way from County Road 6A across our property, potentially opening up access to roads that are private access roads and bringing it clear across that whole county parcel. Is there a reason that they haven't proposed coming up through?
No. Well, I'm beginning with 16. So
is it because they don't maintain 16 in the winter? Because I think they plow 6C because there's other residential.
6C is up here.
Yeah.
So which
60 is what, you know, like the Hornies property and all of those properties that are built up there to access, right? And because it is maintained. And so they would want, you know, they're looking for maintained access.
Or do we have the right county? Are we actually asking for access through county property or
through county property, not through the road? So
this was the parcel.
Yes.
This was the parcel you pointed out that BOCC owned.
Right.
Let me click on a different part and maybe it will.
This is 6C right here, isn't it? No. Oh no, 6C. I'm sorry.
See over here.
Hold on. When I do the
6A down here.
well, we'll fully vet it.
I was going to say we need.
Yeah,
obviously we need more information.
But not here. It shows 6C right here.
Oh, that's your land use map?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to get all of our maps.
And he said that it was, yeah, well, it's not the on this one. And we were talking about this on our house. So, okay. That's the map that I looked at. So that's
okay. Okay.
Anyway, not to get too Italy on it. But
No, that, I think that.
I think the big thing that I wanted to maybe also explain is that I'm seeing some driveway accesses coming in. And I just want to make sure that everyone realizes, you know, Castle County property, I guess it's even just the permits, that we need easements. We need to establish easements if somebody's asking for access to that person. And because the driveway, you know, that came to me was just granted, and I started talking about it. My concern is that if it's not direct access, then and it's crossing property, then we need absolutely right. Yeah. So that was kind of what precipitated the discussion for me was that we can't driveway from that if it's not access to it. If it's crossing. Or private property, we need to and that was kind of what I was wanting to look up and have a discussion, and then we'll do further research and look at that because this is nice.
Yeah.
Do we have a template for that kind of access easement? Or I mean,
we did that on the west of the airport through those like 7 parcels and through county parcel. But I think
I'm saying like a driveway where it might be good, but we don't have it to have like that. But you know, the single family home, some greater usage, what are those specs? What exact route are you expecting? What service are you expecting on the council to understand how it ultimately, and that's probably like half the things, you know.
We didn't coordinate that. That's what we had, like, when we had the link.
Yeah.
We want to make sure, and so that's why it came on my radar. And access was off of 60 and up. So I wanted to make sure that the proper easements are.
Yeah. Okay. And then I see either, I mean, whether it's under the easement or the driveway permit, there'd be referral to like fire, service, all that.
So the whole reason that we do driveway permit is for emergency and verification. So it was all vetted through that. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So let me.
Yeah, see, I mean, we can easily figure out which.
Yeah, we will.
Which route is actually,
but I think for them, I think that getting them before you with their information, and then just steps would be great. So I'm just going to basically just the information gathering, opportunity. So we will reach out to the have them bring all of the information that they have forward and set us up.
Right, that Horning resident, I think he said, Michael said we actually maintain the power. So
yeah.
It'd be a different story for 6 months.
Yes.
If that's exactly.
But the hope is that they want to go and come to okay. Sure.
You're still here. Yeah. History, so. Okay. Item number 8. Discussion on potential short-term rental moratorium.
So staff has just a few things to lift up. I just want to talk very generally and broad, but means to let the board be aware of. I would just suggest the short-term rental model is changing a bit. You know, we were seeing examples that have been brought to the department's attention about guiding as an aspect of Airbnb. Just for an example, I did a little research on that today and the property and a little bit more knowledgeable about it. But I do think that Airbnb itself is as Adam commission, you know, is probably promoting a bit more like Expedia. And so I think the model is out there that the short-term rentals now have other components to them that, you know, for us, we can visually discriminate and we make sure that someone has a state guiding permit has access to those waterways and things like that. So I think that one itself is changing, and that is the new trends there that we want to consider before. At the time of compliance, our last compliance, we had 124, we currently have 128 licensed short-term rentals in the county. Of those, 80% are owners that don't live locally. Have more data and information to send. We've sent some to you. But the other thing that I would just ask of the board is that in a very short amount of time, Tim and I were just looking at short-term rentals generally and could find that there are several in just the space of a few minutes that were not compliant. Whether they didn't have their license number was old. You know, so just in a short amount of time, we found there's quite a bit of non-compliance going on in the county. We've had a turnover in the office. John was really great at working on these for us. We blocked that staff member. There's a limited amount of time. A moratorium would give us time to really wrap our heads around where we are compliance-wise right now. I think our compliance method is really great, but we have to have time to do it. And with the loss of the staff, you know, a well-trained staff member that is doing that just kind of adds to our concerns. Another thing, and the last thing that I'll mention is negative impacts. Largely, short-term rentals have gone, have been working well in the county as far as compliance, it felt like. However, there feels like there's a shift, and we are getting more complaints, more noise, more worried that people are over maximizing properties, which would result in concerns to septic systems. We're hearing a lot of outside fire pit use. We have sent out letters to all short-term rentals owners, encouraging them to consider what that impact is and discouraging them from allowing their tenants, the guests, to be able to use outside fires. Trying to educate them about the wildfire protection planning that takes place. So we did do an educational piece and we reached out, but there's some big concerns out there that we haven't really heard up until recently. We generally gotten 1 or 2 complaints annually. You're getting dozens of complaints about the impacts. And then there's, from a land use standpoint, zoning standpoint, that short-term rentals incentivized ownership. And in the community that is having difficulty with their housing needs, that's a fact. And that's the other thing that we just make as your staff, letting you know that we can see generally the top 3 questions when somebody calls about inquiring about purchasing or buying property in their home is include short-term rentals. The availability of them, and can they do that? And that really drives what they want to build and whether that it's really a decision-making factor in anybody coming into the community. And generally that's because it makes second home ownership more advantageous. So for those reasons, staff would suggest that a moratorium.
I think we are Summit County Commissioners, and if luckily with nothing else, it was a clear statement from them, red flags, like put a moratorium in before what happened to us happened to the county. I know up until this point we kind of were like, that was fluctuating in the priority list as to what the level of urgency felt like. And after hearing that and really the activity that's going on with staff and knowing our lack of capacity to address it, I appreciate this being brought forward and all information. And I think that I would be glad to entertain that. As well as figuring out, how we perhaps contract out with some sort of enforcement agency, because that I think will probably have to be a part of it, even through a moratorium, perhaps. Perhaps.
I do think that we've got good resources and great programs set up, and I do have them never. One, in my opinion, our compliance is successful because of our hands-on approach versus a third party doing it. But so I think we need time. We have added a new staff member who is familiar with it, but we've got to get things up to speed, right? So
yeah.
I'm not sure that we need the cost of that, but that's a
sure
discussion.
Okay.
Maybe there's a cost there and we have the expertise, then I think that's great.
Yeah. What are the current penalties? Just revocation of the
very good question. Yeah, let me get those in. So there's a but so we have a very great, I think, a very good penalty that was built into the code for non-compliance. At the time that short-term rentals were put into the land development code, it was a pretty contentious. And because of that, I think that this penalty process was really important. So let me just, and basically, we just is that the board has the ability to have a hearing with anyone. So if you take in a complaint and you show cause that a short-term rental permit holder, license holder is not compliant with the standards, or there have been noise issues, there have been disturbances to the neighborhood, then there is an opportunity to come in and have an evidentiary hearing with the board, and the board can decide. And it's a pretty wide discretion that we can determine that it's been to the detriment of the neighborhood in which it is licensed in, that they can revoke that license. There's a revocation and the period that the board sees that you can't reapply depending on the severity of the incident. So we would take that information. We received a complaint, we would investigate it. As staff, we would bring it to you, the board, to determine if there was a cause for the show cause hearing, and then opportunity to have a hearing on the situation, and get evidence from all parties, and then the determination. So that's already built into the facility. That may be something in the near future that we need to before the level of complaints that we're
so, like listed on Airbnb right now. Are we licensed or have we?
So that's what we do. We have all of the sites we go through, we categorize them, we've identified them, so that we do. The one thing the sites don't, for safety purposes, they don't have addresses, but they do have mapping, and that's why we have all the maps and we have them all mapped up. So even if someone maybe not completely familiar with our mapping process, you can match against the map. And we also have a photographic institutional memory of what their pictures online look like. And we have a link for advertising. So when we go on and do compliance, we have a really good database to draw from, so we can identify. And then within their language, it's codified that they must have their license number. So the very first trigger, we go through all the listings. The very first thing we're looking for are license numbers. So if they have a license number, match it against the license and make sure that is that address and everything's okay. If they don't have the license number available, then we start mapping it. We look for matching anything else that's previously been listed in that general vicinity, and then we start a compliance if they are not licensed. If they're licensed and they don't have their number listed, and we encourage them to have their license numbers, because then they avoid that with us. We also make the license number within the listing really is a good tool. That's when I changed the code several years ago and codified that they have to have that in there. It really helps compliance. And then we have that institutional database of mapping, photographic information on houses so that you can do a pretty quick match on them. So I feel like we kind of got a good compliance. At it from an educational standpoint is that we with them ample time to come into compliance, and then we work with them through it. And last time that we did the compliance, we only had like maybe 5 or 6, but I do think that we had an infusion of them since that time.
Yeah, and in our wildfire through the CWPP community wildfire protection plan process and our meetings with the subdivisions north and south in the county, there was an overwhelming request and inquiry to us as like panelists of what are you going to do about short-term rentals? I'm concerned about the fire and like the change of the character of my community or my neighborhood. But and then it was, do you have a functioning HOA? Do you not have a functioning HOA? Some of them already prohibit short-term rentals, and that might be a compliance. But there was like a interesting nuance between an HOA being able to supersede what a county may have in place, and if you don't have anything in place, then there's less of a reason for those neighbors to look at maybe revisiting that. And so I think that would be incredibly helpful to incorporate all that into either an amended or revised license or a cap on what that is. Yeah, in total.
I think there's a lot of different things. The one thing that I will say, and maybe this is a little early to say it, but at the same time, whatever we come up with, it needs to be easy to enforce. We will not be effective in our end result. So I think that we've got a lot of models around and lessons learned, and I think that we are still just now, like the warning from Summit County. I think that we're just now seeing all the models changing. There's different aspects to it. And largely the ones that have been managed by property management companies, we just haven't had any problem. And if we talk to our property manager and it's resolved instantly. But that dynamic's changing. And largely, some of them were not managed, were self-managed. And that just, so you don't have the same standard of practice. You don't have the same, and if you're incorporating right, or into the model. And so I think there's a lot of new pressures that we haven't ever felt through. I think we can do this.
Yeah.
So we can figure something out.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, I think as the city, I mean, it's hard to write an enforceable, administratable policy that actually does what you want to do. You shouldn't rush that. So, yeah.
And my suggestion was perhaps to reduce the potential for a lot of backlash from it to have a moratorium apply to new applications. Not so that, if they've got a record of somebody who perhaps had lapsed or something like that, there would be an opportunity for them to cure their non-compliance outside of the moratorium. But that new applications for short-term rentals would be accepted during the period of the moratorium.
Okay, we're at 120, which is just anything of our total housing count. Under 6, understand that's just so I would say that 128 is, and so that's where we're at right now. And it don't have numbers to influence that, but what this is suggesting.
percent of housing in county or including?
No.
Yeah. I mean, it's already been said, but not enough time for us to address it, not, you know. Great. Let's consider that for the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be great. Okay. Bring up your afternoon and do that on the meeting.
That or should go planning commission.
I think that we can, I can reach out and let them know that, and for all of the reasons. I don't think it has to come through, it would come through the planning commission recommendation unless they were recommending. Yeah. It's more directed from you know, your cohorts in other jurisdictions, as well as you know, just informing you of what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that you don't, but I'm happy to loop them in and let them know.
Yeah.
Getting that out.
Great.
Sure. And so, yeah, we saw the item on the agenda. Do you think is that
We were ready to go with that?
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. I just need to be reminded.
Yeah.
I think last night was a great listening session. I think that there was a lot of things. I have a lot of takeaways from that. And I think there was a lot of information. I do believe that the focus was really on what's currently happening. And like what are you know, the interested parties and how does it affect them individually? The thing that I want to, just like I'm telling you about short-term rentals, the thing that I want to elevate to the board as your staff and just say is the amount of interest that we have coming in and saying, I want to apply for a permit. I want to apply for a permit. We have
To operate a business?
To operate an operating business. So we don't issue permits like that. You have to find they're land specific and it's a conditional use permit process. So that's the process right now. And that's what I'm you know, sending back out the door. But I think that I sent you already email that we had 4 inquiries. So I think the part that is missing maybe from the discussion right now is, and I think that a lot of us are aware of, and I think another good educational piece will be what's happening in other communities. Right? You know, people use Moab as an example, Silverton as an example. What about Taylor Reservoir? What about all of the communities that are having these pain points that are saying, I wish I would have gotten ahead of. So it's not really, I think that there's certainly a great implication of need for further controls with our current use. It's what stops more additional use. Or you know, what's appropriate for more additional use. That stops it. What's appropriate for additional use. And I think as some of the communities are starting to, and I think bringing that information forward, Adam brought some great case studies together of what communities are doing. But there's some communities that are just saying no more too, because it's become something that they can't regulate. And so the focus last night to me was a lot on, you know, very personal, hands-on use of what's happening right now. And to me, from the planning's perspective, it's the future use. It's what are the factors that are driving people to look for new opportunities to guide. It's showing up on Airbnb for goodness sakes. We're getting lots of phone calls. We have people that are just doing, you know, they're coming out of the area, renting a B&B, a vacation, or VRBO, and guiding from here. They're not local. They're not contributing to our economy. They're maybe in the short term, but they're coming from somewhere else, and they are just securing lodging and just guiding straight from that as their plan. And Adam found these a couple moments like that and shared them with us. So I think the aspect that I think that was really great, and I think I learned a lot. But the part that I don't think was really focused on very much is what about the new interest that's coming? How do we manage that? I think that and also inventory roads, and are there areas that are more conducive than others? And really driving that. That was because of a lot of the key studies about where is it appropriate and manage, and roads are your assets, your asset management. How do you manage that? But I think my big moment or concern red flag is this is becoming much more restricted than other communities that pushes interest here. We're seeing it with internet, we're calling it out there. And so right now my answer is we don't have permits and happening guiding us the conditions as we not have this. But there's discussion about it and see how it comes out. That's what's going on in the statute, what we're bringing those questions coming in. But it's definitely something that has increased in the ask, just as and yeah, on the permitting process, if there was, I think that the nice coordination with the city and business licenses, and Lori had mentioned that was really kind of a good way to partner. I think that's the right idea. Because that really is everyone looking at each other's community and looking at those impacts and what is really reasonable in this establishing that is.
Yeah. What's our next steps with OHB's another work session on potential?
Yeah, after last night, we're going to gather everybody's notes and feedback, kind of flesh out the key themes that came from the public. And then Chris and I will explore various options, and then we'll have probably another, one or two more work sessions for the public to react to policies or changes that you guys could adopt, and then for the regular meeting.
Could we have a discussion with Forest Service on the special use permitting process, or what, or the uses on their land, their land? I think it would be interesting for us to have that discussion in a public forum so that people understand, not people, but us as a board and potentially community members also understand that we don't have jurisdiction over all the land. And that some of that is, restricted to specific kind of uses.
Yeah, we can certainly invite them for a work session.
Okay.
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah.
Lori and I have been talking, and what I would like to see is talk about moratoria. I'd like a moratorium on either guiding or rental of OHVs. It's kind of tricky because they're not. There's no permitting process in code for either of those. Someone said something about the CEPs last night. Our only CEP was, as you know, for covered storage. So we're in an odd predicament ourselves. But my personal feeling on this is that as we go forward, we can allow guiding. I do not want rentals in the city. I think rentals are the portal to irresponsible behavior. That's my opinion. And I would like to not allow rentals in the city of Leadville. So that's where, in my opinion, we're headed.
Yeah, I think I'd just like some information on the options that are available out there and how other agencies manage land.
Struck by that from the department, the Forest Service departments, and you cite sort of like the missing sector of the pie around Leadville, and understanding that our legal avenues are different than theirs, but we have a similar-ish goal over that area. So as demand grows, it just all get almost up there.
And we do have you compiled Forest Service information. Sarah's provided that. We've got the temporary use tonight. So we could get those all, you know, we can share.
I understand, you know, like if somebody has a permit with us and they have a specific piece of that permit is associated with, is there other permitting processes that we need to go through, like a permit with the Forest Service that may be more restrictive than a county permit?
Yeah. So the outfittering guide standards state that they must have all their permits installed to their operation.
Okay.
So we just, as part of if someone comes in, they're not putting involved. I have to in the month, but they're not going to lakes and they will have their Forest Service permits. What I'm talking about. I don't talk about that anymore.
Well, I think the point is that there's not a lot of like point B in your point of recreation, and I think that was what came up last night. You know, how do we define that and the nuance between that and local use and local access and commercial, and really like appreciating and defining everybody makes an impact, but there is a realistic physical impact and imposition not only on the environment and the land, but the community, depending on what that activity is. And it's really, I think you can like divide it up into a lot of little different kind of categories to have to address. And I thought the reference to Moab was interesting because I think that is not something that's like, well, I mean, that's not a model I think I've heard the community want to move toward. And in fact, people moving here to get away from that overbearing use. And also on the east side, you know, like the 2016 decision on prohibiting that activity, and we could allow it and we could look at county roads alone, but I think there's a real discussion to be had about where we're promoting that, because there are access roads for mining and logging and mineral rights and all that stuff that people have been using, but they're not necessarily legal public places that we can promote or should advocate, like should promote. And it's tricky.
Well, and I just believe that what are the impacts in a better data-driven delivery, so we work on that, because as our caller had mentioned, there's institutional controls in that area, and they're very intentional. And then when I think about the creation of dust and the transportation of materials from one end to another, that, that to what degree is that something that we need to be cognizant of, because we do have that area, and so is that even kind of threshold?
Yeah. I hadn't actually thought of those environmental impacts with those. Sorry, Jeff.
Oh, well, I was just going to ask, I mean, do you want us to kind of brain dump download now, or do you want us to try to
should we have a whole work session on this, or what's the next? What's the next?
Yeah, we'll probably do the next work session. I mean, I think there are just some peripheral comments, and then we'll give us some time to get some more information together too.
So if you have your notes from the meeting would be helpful for us, and then we can have
for us to download that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we can have a
the
work session on that, and then more of like a town hall.
Yeah. I'd like to just make sure that we've got really good information to prep for that, go out and just really look at anecdotal evidence of what other communities are, how they, where they're at, and how whatever lessons we can learn moving forward, where we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
So send that to and Tim and Chris and CC.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yes, okay.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah, and thanks again for leading such a great discussion. Very cordial and yeah, it was really well. It was really nice. The information. I thought the agenda and the kind of format of presenting context was great.
Yeah.
Before accepting it, opening it up.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, I was super impressed with our staff. Michael, Chris, to be able to put information together. Okay, thanks, Anne. Thank you, Anne. Okay, moving on to minutes of the payroll. I have not reviewed the
I did not review those either.
So, and
Sure.
Great. And so then motions for the veteran service officer and business.
Move to approve the veteran service officer report for July 2022.
Any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I'll move to approve bills and payroll for the pay period ending on July 29th, 2022.
Second.
Any further decision?
Nothing to read.
Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you all very much. That concludes our agenda for today. And with that, we will adjourn at 12:51 p.m. Thank you very much.